Brighton's finest.
This is Juice.
Been rehearsing today because doing the tour next week, you know.
Yeah, sure, the big London show.
Yeah, so the first one's on Wednesday in London. So I just had a rehearsal today.
Strings sounding good?
Yeah, like pros, innit? You know, like...
Yeah, wicked.
Good at what they do.
So, Derevaun Seraun, 5 tracks on it, which you describe as movements. It's quite a literary piece of work. So can you tell me how literature informs the writing that you do?
Do you mean in general or for this piece?
For this particular piece.
Yeah, for this particular piece, it's very direct. I mean, the piece came about. It's basically a recording of a commission that I got from people involved with the Manchester Central Library because it was being renovated for many years, and then when it reopened, they had like a series of concerts to commemorate its reopening, and they asked me to write a piece for it, and so I wrote this piece just about, I chose like 5 authors that I like, and each piece is about that.
How do you fit being a student into all of this? I know that you're on a literature degree, so does that help or hinder what you do?
I guess that's an interesting, because there are some like things that I've written about that I've got into touch with like academically because I've had to study it, and some things that I've just like read in my spare time and things like that. And I think like having to study things at like degree level or something or whatever gives you like a certain. It provides you with like a certain amount of perspectives to look at things, but at the same time, a lot of what the record is about like not wholly relying on like a very academic austere way of looking at books. Because I think that's something that's a general problem with the culture of literature in general.
Do you think that accessibility is a problem with popular music that people are writing now? You talk about literature having a problem with being too academic, almost being exclusive. Do you find that music can be like that too?
No. I think that's a really important difference between like the culture around literature and the culture around music, which the record is mostly about, which is really, I think that what is enjoyable about literature and what's enjoyable about music ultimately comes down to the same thing. It's an instinctive thing, but that's more obvious with music because there's so much more in music that's you just can't, because it's to do with like tones and rhythms and things, you can't articulate pleasure from that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's non-verbal. Whereas because it's just rooted in verbal and like justifying things and things like that, there's just a general culture around it that's kind of box ticky, do you know what I mean? And I think like James Joyce is a really good example of this. He's like one of the people I write about where there's this like popular image of him as this like incredibly difficult and and it's and it's like you have to like jump through hoops before you can like possibly be worthy of appreciating him, and that's not what he does do a lot of that. He does a lot of like intellectual chin wagging or whatever, but that's not why he's good. He's good because he writes in a way that's like you instinctively enjoy. He's able to articulate certain situations and sentiments in a really true way, and that's something that, again, I use the word again, it comes down to instinct rather than like any form of art, but I think that literature in particular suffers from that kind of just like kind of classist as well, like mentality of you can't possibly understand this if you haven't read this or something. That kind of music does. I mean, music does in the extent that you get like record snobs who will like lay into you if you haven't heard Captain Beefheart, but it's not the same. Like it's not the same. I don't think it has the same like class-based mechanics about it that music does.
So how do you bring that kind of instinctive feel to your music?
Well, that's just by focusing on simple things. I think ultimately, like, I can unpack all this sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a very, very simple record, and mostly the pieces are not about. It's not like I'm using like poems as a text. I'm not like setting poetry to text. It's mostly about like what I have enjoyed about them or what I've got from them and how they've moved me.
How come you chose Living With Your Ailments as the first one to release?
It's got a good riff in it. Don't know, like it's just like just catchy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know most of the record is generally not very radio friendly. It's generally like first of all, it's quite quiet, so it doesn't like punch out when you. And also, just like I think it's just a bit more. It's just a bit more immediate. It's one of the longer tracks on the record, but I think it has like just like it's like the poppiest in it, you know, more immediate.
Brighton's finest.
This is Juice.